In Boston, there was recently this event called Trans Period Pride that was canceled because of an uproar on social media, predominantly by right-wingers like the lady in this video. So I wanted to watch this video and give you guys a sense of all of the uproar around this topic that happened on social media.
As a biological woman who also lives very close to Massachusetts, please stop saying that you guys just want to be treated like everybody else, because we don't do this. Okay. You guys are trying to preach equality, saying like, oh, trans people are just like, we don't do this. Biological women, or whatever you want to call us, we don't do this. We go ahead, we buy our pads, we buy our products, and we move about our day just like everybody else. We don't need to bring awareness to menstruating. Seriously.
So one of the things that got me about this video pretty immediately was biological women definitely do this. Biological women definitely do create programs and host events about celebrating periods. This is not even a far-fetched thing. It is something that, like, I feel like I remember seeing people attack way back in the 2016 era of YouTube anti-feminism, where people were acting like there was no reason for anyone to come together to discuss menstruation, especially in an era where sanitary products are not accessible or free, right? The thing that struck me about this immediately was it's also very easy for me to hear this subtext of misogynistic repulsion around women's bodies, right? And this video also sort of has an undertone of disgust around the very idea of menstruation, right? Now, she is trying to suggest that this is an event being hosted for transgender women and their experiences with periods. And there are some transgender women who will argue that trans women have periods. I want to make my position quite clear that I am not a person who needs to say that I have a period in order to feel as if my gender is validated. And I do tend to disagree with the trans women who think that they are in one way experiencing the shedding of their uterine wall. I just don't think that it's necessary for us to say that similar symptoms therefore make it the same thing. I don't think it's necessary. Debate with me in the comment section if you feel like it. To me, it doesn't seem like an important thing, but that's almost an irrelevant point because this was not an event for trans women. This is an event for people who bleed, i.e. people who are designated female at birth. Trans Period Pride. Join us for our 3rd annual Trans Period Pride Consciousness Raising. We'll be learning about trans experiences with menstruation with the MA Trans Political Coalition and hold a group discussion to connect and share. This event is free to attend, and both members of the trans community and their allies are welcome to attend. Please RSVP to the meeting room. I'm going to explain this because this still needs to be explained, right? There are transgender people who are designated female at birth. Some of those people have uteruses. And taking testosterone doesn't always stop their periods. Transitioning doesn't always stop their periods. It often doesn't. Being a transgender man in a culture where there are products that you need, right? I want to acknowledge that this is an issue for cis women, for biological women, right? There are products that you need that are not affordable or accessible. And also where the doctors who handle your care are usually listed under women's care. It creates this gap where transgender people who are designated female but do not identify as women do not have a clear path to care. There are certain places where they're able to gain access to that care. But a lot of times, trans men, defab non-binary folks, gender expansive folks who are designated female at birth do indeed experience a gap in what is accessible to them. And this is something that really only exists because of cis-sexism. Cis-sexism is the idea that the bodies that are the most valuable are cis bodies. And therefore, when things are created, they are only created with them in mind. We get conversations around We get terms like chest feeding and person with a uterus from the attempt that especially medical professionals have been making to be inclusive to people who have uteruses but do not identify as women. And that is something being done because when these people do not receive care, there is often very, very, very harsh repercussions. And I actually wanted to show you this very touching video that a cis woman shared about her experience with something like this.
Stop saying that you guys just want to be treated like everybody else, because we don't do this.
What an absolutely privileged, selfish take on that. Sit down, bitch, and let me tell you about someone named Sam. It was about 2016, and I lived at the beach. So I suited up for a run one morning and I headed across the street to the beach where I lived. And as I was running back in, I noticed someone sitting on the concrete bench by the public bathroom, a guy with a towel around his waist. And for whatever reason, my intuition said I should check on him. He looked a little terrified and a little nervous. And so I took my earbud out and I said, "Do you need anything?" He looked at me kind of embarrassed and he said, "No, I'm okay." And I said, "Are you sure?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Okay." And I went to put my earbud back in my ear and continue running. And he stopped me and he said, "Ma'am, actually do need something." I said, "Okay, I'll do my best to help you. What can I get for you?" And he said, "Can you need tampons?" And I nodded my head and he goes, "You're confused." I said, "No, not at all confused. I have tampons. I live right there. I will go get you some tampons." And I said, "My name is Charlie." And he said, "My name is Sam." So I sat down with him and he said, "I am Sam. I was born Samantha. I'm 17, just about to turn 18. I came out to my parents and they kicked me out of the house." He lived in some other state. This was in California. And he had been riding the bus system to get wherever he was going. He was on the streets because his parents didn't love him enough to keep him safe, no matter what. Being homeless on the streets, a trans man, Sam was very, passing as a trans man. But once menstruation happened, it was very hard to hide that fact. And when you're a person on the streets with a vagina, you're very, very vulnerable to certain types of violence, if you know what I mean. Let's be real. When you are a person with a vagina, you're susceptible to certain types of violence, regardless of whether you live on the streets or not. Just existing with a vagina makes you a target. So I went home, had a brand new unopened box of tampons. So I grabbed a box of tampons for him. I grabbed some clean sweatpants that my ex-girlfriend had left. I grabbed a few laundry pods and a handful of quarters so that he could go wash his clothes. But the towel around his waist was to hide the menstruation that was clearly on the outside of his pants. And he was terrified. So I took those things back over to him and he was so grateful and he was so emotional. And I gave him my phone number and I said, "Will I see you around here again?" And he said that he was on his way to San Diego because that's where he heard that he could actually exist and be somewhat safe, even if he was on the streets. I told him that I had to work that day and that I would be happy to try to give him a ride to San Diego on the weekend if he could wait, but he was going that day. I never did see Sam again. And all I can do is hope that over the years, he was able to heal his relationship with his family. And I hope that today, Sam is 27 or 28 years old and living his best life. And the idea that maybe he didn't make it, or maybe that this cruel fucking world took him out, just devastates me. But Sam, if you're out there, I think about you all the time. And I talk about you a lot of the time too. And I choose to believe that you're out there living your best fucking authentic life, that you've found a place to land with some amazing fucking people, and life is good.
So when I saw that story, it really touched me. And I will apologize to those of you guys who have probably noticed that there are maybe some onions being cut in the room because I got kind of emotional when I saw that. When I was younger, I used to run away from home all the time. I used to go to Hollywood all the time. I used to go to Hollywood Boulevard constantly. That was the place I would go, which is funny now because as an adult, I still spend a decent amount of time there, probably because I'm so used to being there. There were very few times where people checked on me, and to see that that was what was happening, yeah, that made me feel kind of nice that this person had someone looking out for him. Now let's go over what happened because I think it's really important to lay this out. This transgender man was disowned by his family. I believe it's still true that 40% of homeless youth are LGBT, right? This is a very common experience for people within the LGBT, right? But transgender men face very distinct issues when they are unhoused, and this is one of them. And this issue is, of course, one that maps onto a lot of other issues in general, but this is a very particular specific experience, is often ignored because of cis-sexism. And so you have a situation where, because this young transgender man was not cis, he was unhoused, right? And because he was unhoused, he couldn't gain access to sanitary products. And one of the only ways he can get them for free or in a way that is accessible is in the women's restroom. That's actually why events like Trans Period Pride exist. Part of those events is the distribution of these products to the people who need them. It's a come take these products, no questions asked situation. I thought that it was interesting and privileged that this woman would make a video like this, because this is something that is done for unhoused cis women. These products, because they cost money, are not accessible to people who are unhoused. And some of the people who need access to them are transgender men. And the fact that this wouldn't even cross the mind of the original person who made this video is telling. It's very telling. I think it's interesting that instead of jumping to the much more obvious conclusion that this would be an event done for people who actually bleed, they instead went for this whole idea that I guess this event would be completely organized for people who don't bleed, but I guess want the like celebration around that. I think the thing that makes transphobia so stupid to me is it's just so obviously not what's happening. It's mind-numbing to me that people like this, when they think of trans people, they literally only think of trans women. Why would a trans woman need to go to a period event? Why wouldn't your mind immediately go to transgender people who are designated female at birth, who do indeed still bleed? But that's the thing. These people, they have no understanding of basic shit when it comes to trans people, but they're often grifting and able to gain a lot of celebration, a lot of love, a lot of engagement from their ignorance. And that ignorance is being escalated in a time when people are trying to genocide us. You're just being dumb. Trans women are not sitting around wanting to have a period day. There are some trans women who will argue that they have period symptoms, but they're not going to go to events like this. The people that do bleed will, right? And so you've built up this delusion, frankly. I was going to say, like, you've built up this, like, straw man, but it's really just a delusion. You literally made that up. You are literally imagining that. And it's sad because at the end of the day, there's a reason for this shit to exist. But these people are being listened to so much right now that there are people who listened to this and said, yeah, there shouldn't be a trans period day at the Boston Library, to the point where the event was actually canceled. Isn't that crazy? That's one of the ways that transphobia has such a negative impact on people. You've got people who really do need access to these resources, and they're being turned away because cis people don't like it. Another example of cis-sexism. You even get to have a say because you're cis. Even in this video, she's citing herself as an authority figure because she's a biological woman. But what does that have to do with trans men having periods? Nothing. But within this mindless transphobia, that's hot facts. But it's not. It's truly not. Complete cap. But I think one of the things that sucks about being trans is you engage with shit like this, and you have to accept that people are going to be loud and wrong, and that in their loud and wrongness, you might just die. That's the sad reality that many of us are in, that we have to tolerate ignorance because ignorance and lack of education around what we experience and what we live through is far more popular than just listening to us. So many transgender men come to social media to share their issues with receiving access to care. and people often don't listen. I thought that I would share a video by a transgender man who shared some of his thoughts about how he's feeling in this current era, because I think that trans men are often excluded from this conversation because they do present a very uncomfortable foil to many of the conclusions and assumptions made about who transgender people are.
Sometimes I do wish that people could feel how frustrating it is to be trans sometimes. How frustrating it is to scroll on your FYP and see people making think pieces about who's a TERF and who's not a TERF and who's the better ally and getting on their soapboxes to feel good about themselves. But they're killing us. They're putting into legislation laws that will strip away our gender affirming care, are taking away people's licenses in some states. And as we're about to roll into Pride, where I know that I'm going to enter spaces where I was once welcomed and now feel like a complete outcast, have my relationship invalidated because of my outward appearance, because they think I'm a cis man in a queer space. It's like having to hear people say, oh, you never hear trans men say anything or argue because you erase us. You erase our voices. And I go through it, and I know the immense amount of privilege that I have based on the way that I look. So I can't even imagine my brothers and sisters that don't have certain privileges. It's frustrating. It's dangerous. And I would implore everybody who says that they care about trans people to actually care about trans people on a day-to-day, to actually watch their videos and listen to what they have to say. Take it a step further. Have conversations with people who aren't trans around you. You want us to make ourselves unsafe and have the conversations and make everyone else around us knowledgeable when that puts us in harm's way. I want to see you do it. I want to see you have the uncomfortable conversations with the people around you. I'm fucking tired. And I know my brothers and sisters are tired of it too.
Look, I've been on here doing this shit for a really long time at this point. I've faced denial and rejection every single step of the way. It is genuinely maddening to me because one of the things you're often told as a trans person is it's your responsibility to educate people. But the reality of this is when you're a trans person, no one wants to fucking listen to you. No one wants to fucking trust that you understand what's going on. It's wild because when you're a trans person, you're put into this world where you see the bullshit of what people are practicing and how people are living in a much clearer way. I think that is one of the main reasons why people are so terrified about trans people, because we so much more readily call attention to the fact that this is bullshit, right? And that's why people are dedicated to stigmatizing transgender people, because we draw attention to the flaws in the matrix, not to make it too on the nose, but that really is what it is. It's bizarre to live in this world where you've got these billionaires taking peptides and testosterone pills, yet at the same time, acting as if transgender people are ruining our society because they want to live in their bodies a certain way, to constantly be the discourse of the week. I'll be frank with you. I've had a different reaction than a lot of people because I've started taking it for what it actually is. It's an obsession. Some of these people are obsessed with trans people. They are obsessed with trans people, and they will never stop being obsessed with trans people. We are the most interesting, most exciting thing they interact with. We are the most exciting topic in their lives. They've got nothing else going on. I do sometimes miss the time of people being less aware of who trans people were, because stuff like this could happen and we wouldn't face the same degree of attack. They are trying to make it so that we have no place to go, no place to exist, no place to thrive. And frankly, I've had a different thought about this because that to me reads as an obsession. And I'm not as obsessed with myself as these people seem to be obsessed with me. And so you guys may wonder why I'm spending more time making art and being whimsical and doing things that seem unserious right now. And it's because I've spent the past 20 years of my life fighting and taking up the idea that it was my responsibility to educate people. I've just had to accept, especially as it seems like the walls could be closing in on us, that it's not my fucking responsibility. At the end of the day, it's going to take people like the woman who walked up to that transgender man and offered to help for anything to fucking change. I feel that way about a lot of aspects of this conversation. I don't think that it is my responsibility as a Black transgender woman to help this country out of its white ethno state, right? I think at the end of the day, people have to make a very, very, very serious decision to disentangle themselves from these things. I think I'm going to continue to live my life as if I deserve to live it, as if I deserve to exist without justification and explanation. Frankly, they can die mad about it because I am determined to die happy about it. I'm determined to die happy about the life that I lived and not live in constant misery over the life that could be. I do think this is one of the main reasons why people have such an issue with trans people. It's not that we're delusional and we don't know what's going on in our bodies. It's that we know and respect it and hear it and actually follow it in a way that most people are too afraid to. I think I've said all I want to say. I would love to hear what you guys have to say in the comment box below. Please give me your thoughts. If you like this t-shirt that I'm wearing, you can find it in my store, katblaque.store, where currently I am doing a sale, free shipping on all items. You can find it in the store, and there are a bunch of brand new items for Pride. So, if you're an ally or whatever, go and support the things in my store. It would mean an awful lot to me, and I've loved seeing what everyone has been picking up for transparency. I am going to take away some of the items in the store that are not popular after a certain point. If you don't have the resources right now to purchase something, tell me what's on your list of things to purchase, what's on your wish list, so that I know to not remove those things. Right now, we've got a ton of stuff in the store. It's almost a little overwhelming, so I do want to trim it down a bit. Please let me know which things you guys like in the store and what designs you'd like to see even more. I have so many things planned for the future, and I'm really excited to show them to you. Anyway, I will talk to you guys later. As per usual, I want you guys to stay hot and introspective, and always remember and never forget that you are beautiful and you are loved. Bye.